This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good evening everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abam. Sorry we couldn't get together this morning, I was out of town. But I want to share with you just a point of Iyun on the Blat, Daf Pei Gimel. We're in the Sugya of Androgenus, and the Gemara brings various opinions. According to Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah, an Androgenus is a Vadai Zachar, which is, that itself is worthy of study. I mean, this individual has a siman of Zachrus and a siman of Nakvus. It has a siman of male, it has a siman of masculinity, it has a siman of femininity, and yet we say it's a Vadai Zachar. I mean, why a Zachar? Why not a Nekeva? Like, why do we pick out of a hat male as opposed to female? Actually, I called up this evening the one who publishes the Machlokes for Daf Hashavua, and this was his question, and I brought up the possibility that, when we say that someone's a male or a female, what is it based on? Simonim, almost like kosher animal. An animal has a siman that it's kosher, it chews its cud, it has split hooves. And there's actually a question whether that's a siman or a siba. Is that symptomatic that they're kosher, or does it cause that they should be kosher? Is it a siman or a siba? Now, we know if somebody has a male aver, okay, that's a sign that they're a male. Is a female aver, is that a sign that they're a female, or is that a sign they're not a male? Or in other words, is there such a thing as a positive sign someone's a female, or is it just the absence of a sign that they're a male? The nafkamina would be if somebody has both simanim. So if there's a positive sign of being a female, then it's hard to understand why someone who has both a male and a female sign, why should they be a male over a female? But if it's just that if someone has nakvus, so they don't have proof positive that they're a male. So if they have both, then they do have proof positive that they're a male. Anyway, okay. Now, the Gemara brings the opinion of Rabbi Yossi in the Brisa that Androgenus baria b'fnei atzma, that Androgenus is its own creation. If you could take a look in your Gemaras on Daf Pei Gimel, Tosfos brings, what does it mean Androgenus is baria b'fnei atzma? Simply, baria b'fnei atzma means that there's male, there's female, and then there's like this new monster called Androgenus, which is neither a male or not a female. What is it? It's like in Kedushin. There's a behema, there's a chaya, and there's a kvi. Is a kvi a safek behema, safek chaya, or is a kvi both? Is a kvi a monster, a baria b'fnei atzma? So the same thing with male and female. What's an androgenous? I would have said androgenous baria b'fnei atzma. There's a creature called androgenous. Tosfos says no. Top Tosfos on Pei Gimel Amnav says, I'm going to read, the high baria loy have a perusha kugoin baria shebekamis acherim. Baria over here does not mean baria like in other places. She'enoi safek, in general, baria is not a safek. Ala baria de kamar hacha, hainu shu safek. Baria here, Tosfos learns a novel interpretation. Baria b'fnei atzma just means it's a safek zachar, safek nekeva. Kedeka amar v'lo yechriu bai. Meaning, if baria b'fnei atzma meant it's a monster, it's a third category, then what does it mean the rabbis were not machriya? The rabbis did not give a definitive identity. They did! It's a baria b'fnei atzma. That's a definitive identity. The fact that the Gemara says v'lo yechriu chacham, that means they're debating. We don't know, is it a male or is it a female? V'chein mashma, Tosfos says, this also is implied, b'hama poilas, in Masechta Nida. Da'amar Rav, tumtum v'androgenus, sharo loiven oy oidam. Let's say a tumtum or an androgenous, they see white and they see red. They see white or red. So if they see white, it might be in the emission of a male. The only thing is, but they might be a female. Or if they see red, it might be the emission of a female blood. but they might be a male. So you can't burn truma because they might not be tameh, because if they're the other gender, then what they emitted is irrelevant. However, if they see white and red, then we could burn truma. Why? Because either they're a male or a female. So if they're a male, they saw white, and if they're a female, they saw red. So whatever they are, they emitted something that renders them tumah. But now Tosfos says, but if they're beria b'fnei atzma, even then you shouldn't burn truma, because maybe this monster does not become tameh, not from red and not from white. But the fact that if Androgenus emits red and white, we burn truma, that means that's because its status is a suffix. So if it emits something that miman of shach, in other words, it emitted red, it emitted white, so whatever gender it is, it emitted something that's going to render it tameh, so it'll be tameh. So Tosfos learns beria b'fnei atzma does not mean what we think it means. Pashib shah beria b'fnei atzma means it's a separate category, it's a separate entity, and Tosfos says no, it's a suffix. However, the Ramban learns Lefidaiti. Look over here on the Maramakoimos. Lefidaiti, in my opinion, Einon devarim nechaynim. This is not correct. The lashon beria b'fnei atzma hu la'afuki misafek. Mitmar b'chol makom. Beria b'fnei atzma means to exclude the category of a suffix. Okay, so the Ramban learns the Gemara like we would have assumed. So now, in the world of the Ramban, that a androgynous is a beria b'fnei atzma, we know men are chayiv in mitzvos aseh shazman grama, women are pater. What would you say about an androgynous? If an androgynous is a vadai zachar, of course an androgynous is chayiv in mitzvos. If an androgynous is a suffix, like the Ri, like Tosfos, then an androgynous will be chayiv in mitzvos misafek. But according to Ramban, that there's a male, there's female, and there's androgynous, is an androgynous chayiv in mitzvos? I tell you, if you would have asked me, I would have said, I'm not sure what I would have said actually. Meaning, what's the question? Is it only a male is chayiv in mitzvos, and a female is pater, and androgynous is also pater because androgynous is not a male? Or is it that only a female is pater, and a male is chayiv, and androgynous is not a female, so an androgynous is chayiv? I think I would have said only a male is chayiv, and therefore even an androgynous would be pater. That's what I would have said. So this is a big machlokes acharayim. I don't have much. I just thought it was an interesting machlokes. Yeah, Mike.
I would say he's a different entity. That's why.
Right. So
it's like a half slave. How do you categorize the half slave?
Correct. But the question is it that only men are chayiv in mitzvahs, and anyone who's not a man is pater, and therefore an androgynous is pater, or is it only women are pater in mitzvahs, and anyone who's not a woman is chayiv, and androgynous is not a woman, so an androgynous should be chayiv? I think I would have...
Is the reason for the patura by the women because there need to be available, let's say, for childbirth and child rearing, in which case we'd have to apply that to whether that take a look by androgynous.
Okay, good. That's a svara that many suggest, but I don't really think that's like a halachic svara. That's like, like a Sefer HaChinuch type of an idea, but I don't know that it governs the...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In other words, what a woman who can't have children? Or what about...
Low plug,
What about, or at a certain age? Okay, you could say low plug. So, the Keren says something very interesting. He says... Right over here, do you see where my mark is? Avalachol mitzvahs less b'chiyuva. An androgynous has no chiyuv in mitzvahs. Ella oimi safek. If you hold an androgynous as safek male, safek female, he'll be chayiv misafek. Or he would be chayiv according to the man da'amar that he's a vadai zachar. Oy leman da'amar the zachar vadayu. Avo leman da'amar beria b'fnei atzmayu. But according to the opinion, it's an entity in and of itself. Loi mechayiv min ha-Torah b'mitzvah shal nashim, will not be chayiv midaraisa in the mitzvahs of men. Kal heicha deleka ribuya, unless you have an explicit inclusion. Meaning the Keren learns that men are specifically included and obligated in mitzvahs, and an androgynous would remain pater unless there's an explicit inclusion. That's what I would have said. Comes a Levush, and the Levush is found in Hilchais Shofar, and the Levush says Androgenus chayiv. And Androgenus is chayiv in Shofar. I would have said Androgenus is pater. He's like a woman. Yeshayim chiv gomer minat Torah. Shalai patra atam bnei Yisrael ela hanashim gemuros. The Torah only exempt absolute females. V'zu ein isha gemura ela min b'fnei atzma u'mizar Yisraelhu. The Torah only exempted women. And Androgenus is not a woman. It's a min by itself. And it's a Jew. And Androgenus is a Jew. And the Torah only excluded women. In other words, Keren says default is you're exempt from mitzvahs unless you're a man that you're chayiv. Levush says exempt and you're chayiv in mitzvahs. Unless you're a woman and you're pater. And an androgynous is not a woman. Very interesting Machlokes. Now, the Eliyah Rabbah asks, if that's the case, we know an androgynous cannot be moitzi a man in Tkiyah Shofar or in other mitzvahs, right? An androgynous can only be moitzi a minoi. Why? If really default is your chayiv in mitzvahs and only absolute women are pater, so an androgynous is chayiv in mitzvahs, like, man, why can't an androgynous be moitzi a man? That's like a bomb you can't get out of. That's why Pasha Pshat is like the Keren that only men are chayiv in mitzvahs. Androgynous are not chayiv. He says, "V'i chayiv vadem min atar hoyamoitzi av she'enamiu." So in the Daf Hashavua Mar Makoimos they say, and I don't really, I'm not sure how compelling this is. They say maybe really only women are pater and androgynous is chayiv, but nevertheless, it's a weak chayiv. I don't know what that means. He compares it to what Reb Chaim says that kisei hadam of a koi, that even though there's a vaday chiyuv to cover, but it's a weak chiyuv because it has a chelek habehima. Somehow he's viewing it that even though it's a beria b'fnei atzma, but there's an element of nakvus to it that weakens the chiyuv. I don't really understand what that would mean. So that's what we have. Basically, Machlokes Rishonim, Tosfos learns androgynous beria b'fnei atzma means suffik, indicated by the fact that the Gemara says that the Chachamim were not machriya its status. The Ramban learns simply it's a separate entity. Would it be chayiv in mitzvahs? The Keren says no. Only men are chayiv. Women are pater, androgynous is pater. Levush says women are pater. Men are chayiv, androgynous are chayiv. Eliyah Rabbah asks, so then why cannot an androgynous be moitzi einoi minoi? Now, just for your own knowledge, there's a very interesting Shitas HaRavid here. The Ravid is found in Hilchos Shofar, Parak Beis, Halacha Beis, that androgynous is not beria b'fnei atzma. It's not a suffix. It's chatzi zachar v'chatzi nekeva. And therefore it can't even be moitzi another androgynous. Because the half of it that's a female can't be moitzi the other guy's half that's a male. So this is a completely different shita. Shitas HaRavid is not joining, it's not a suffix, not beria b'fnei atzma. He's like, it's an entity that's 50% male, 50% female. And all the Achronim are matmiya. Where did the Ravid? Do you see such a shita in the Gemara? In our Gemara, we either see Vaday Zachar or Beria B'fnei Atzma, which is like a separate entity. Or the way Tosfos learns, Safek Zachar, Safek Nekeva. But nobody says it's 50% Zachar, 50% Nekeva.
Isn't that just an entity in and of itself? Wouldn't that be under that category?
It seems like the Ravid is saying, maybe that's another explanation for Beri B'fnei Atzah, but simply Beri B'fnei Atzah is a third category, not a category that contains two. For example, the Minchas Chinuch wants to know, if somebody gives birth to an Androgenus, are they Mekayim Puravu at one time? Here it is. You created a Zachar and then a Nekeva. No, right? No way.
Clearly find a male or a female. I mean, there's clearly, you only have two options. You don't have three options.
Question: is an androgynous, according to the Ravid, allowed to get dressed? What kind of clothing? He can't wear male clothing. The female half is over. You can't wear male. Can't wear male clothing. The female. So the Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Tav Kuf Mem Gimel leaves off as a tzarich Iyun. Can an androgynous who's a kohen duchen? Is there an issur for Yisrael to duchen? In other words, he's a kohen. Half of him, which is a male, should be able to duchen. So that's the Ravid Shita is like a different world in Hilchos Androgenus. Okay, Rabbi, have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining. So this week we're going to try to do Monday and Tuesday, and we might have to do a third night this week. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bracha v'atzlacha. Aguten.
Thank you, Rob.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.